Yes, hello and welcome to the Any Given Sunday Australia podcast, the number one podcast in at least 3 households, 1 studio, and probably many more places by now, because I think we are on the up and up after the week that we've just had. Joining me, as always, is our ever-reliable, down in his basement in Torquay, TC24 at Tim Cardy, AGSAU. Is
Correct.
That right?
AGSAU, yeah. At Tim Cardy, AGSAU.
How are you, mate?
Oh, I'm great, mate. Going really good. Good to see you again.
Yes, absolutely. We've been seeing each other a lot. Yeah, a lot, which we will talk about.
Yep.
And our junior boy turned senior boy, work experience kid turned pro, Danny Webb, AGSAU. How are you, buddy?
Oh, mate, I'm already checked out. Holiday mode.
Yes, so that's the first thing that I will bring up. You are on, and this is going to sound stupid, but I'm going to run with it. You're on Daniel leave.
Oh, boo!
Come on, give me something.
Oh, that is bad.
You have applied for annual leave as of about 8 o'clock last night. I was like, oh, come on, man, give me some idea.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm off. I'm off for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Get some Daniel leave. How do I get some Daniel leave? Does that mean you come and you're here? You just stay here for a couple of weeks?
Oh, yeah. Well, when we hopefully do this more regularly in a studio, then I guess that's kind of the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon. Soon.
I don't know if you want to know. Are we going to... If you say where you're going, you might be mobbed. So maybe keep it to yourself.
Yeah, because we've got such a massive fan base in Japan.
We do. All right, so you've spilled the beans.
Oh, he's done it!
He spilled the beans. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Try and be subtle and just drop a cheeky konnichiwa or something.
Yeah, at the end.
Arigato.
That's wasabi? I don't know much.
Yeah, no, you're out.
Travel back.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
where's Japan on the globe?
Well, can you? It's hidden. Well hidden behind the AGS shirt. Nice. We've got a few things that we are going to go through today, but the main thing is just to let everyone know what our plans are for our summer series, our off-season, not break because we're going to keep it going, but our off-season schedule, I guess. Most of it will be, we've been, like we just said, Carts, in the lab a lot. We're getting a lot of interviews, a lot of talking to Australians that are in college, especially. But we have been lucky enough we put it out on the socials yesterday, to speak to a Super Bowl winning fullback. Carts, you were with me, mate. Who did we speak to and how was it?
Super Bowl champion, Mike Burton. So he was a ripper. He jumped on with us yesterday. We were early morning. We did luckily get pushed back a little bit.
It was nearly really early morning.
It was going to be really early. So it was a bit more friendly for our time zone. But he was a ripper. He gave us plenty of time and, champion bloke. So looking forward to that one coming out this Sunday.
Sunday it'll be out. I'm not sure whether it'll be early or late, but it'll be out. We've also I spoke to a Division 1 coach who has made his way over to Australia, and he's a part of the End Zone Academy. I'm going to get this wrong, and I felt bad when I did it live because I really just rushed through it, but Makana Garrigan is how I'm going to say it. And he was another one. He was a real ripping guy, and that'll be on the back end of this episode we're going to put on today. So it's a real short one just to get everyone up to date, and then you'll listen to Coach Garrigan speak about his life growing up. He was going to be a really good footballer, but he had an unfortunate injury and then turned his hand to coaching, and he's come to our shores, and he's another real good listen to. So that's on the back end of this. We do have some news that we're going to go through, but to start with, we have some new merchandise that has arrived. We've mentioned it a few times over the past few weeks. I am rocking it. That is the new shirt. I will turn around. So, boys, you're going to have
on
to
YouTube, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. You boys have to talk because I have to take my headphones off. All right, you ready?
Okay. So this is actually it looks white, but it's a neutral
there
tone.
It is.
It's the little different logo on the back there, and obviously the Any Given Sunday on the chest. So we've got them in black and white, or black and neutral, I suppose I should have said. But yeah, that's going to be.
How was that? Did you get enough of a view?
Yeah, it looked good. Looked great.
I've only got the small view. I can guarantee you it's bigger when I put this on, and I'll just look like a dickhead. But so we do have those. Where at the moment, we're not going to. You can get them by contacting us through the Instagram. I reckon will be better.
Instagram DMs.
Instagram DMs. So it's $35 a shirt. We can ship it to you, but I just found out by shipping yesterday that it's a lot more expensive than I thought. So if you want it shipped, it'll be $10 shipping as well. But yeah, so just DM us, and we actually, if you want over $100 worth, you can have free shipping. I'll give you that one. But if you want 4 shirts, then I'll send you a shipping for free. But yeah, so just DM sizes from small to 2XL, but it's obviously the higher ends and the lower ends are pretty short on numbers. So if you want one of those higher ones, make sure you get in early. But $35 to be repping the new version 2 of the Any Given Sunday shirts. I know you boys will be onto them soon.
And if anyone doesn't have Instagram and can't message on that, hit us up on Twitter or anywhere else you find us. Even comment on the YouTube saying, I want one of those shirts.
We will get it, but it was just trying to keep it centralized. But if you do need to go elsewhere, please do. Because we want this out there. We want everyone to get them and really start repping the AGS.
Because we're in the process of looking at, developing our own, whether it's our own website with a little shop or, however, but we're in the process of looking into that. So that'll all be sort of centralized, hopefully by, what is it, series or run 3, or what are you going to call it? Like the third drop of merch?
Yeah.
The winter drop.
Version 3.0.
Yeah.
3.0.
It'll probably be a winter drop because we'll be looking at some hoodies and some crew necks, beanies, maybe some beanies. Yeah. So that'll be the version 3.
Yep.
V3.
Oh, maybe you could do a little V3 on somewhere.
On the
special edition.
Yeah.
Down the bottom. I like it. The last little bit about our summer series is the draft combine and the draft. So the draft combine starts soon, 24th today. It's the 28th over there, till the 4th over there, I say America. 28th of Feb till the 4th of March, I believe, or the 3rd of March. So depending on when we come on, we'll either talk about it mid or at the end. That'll be good just to talk about some of the rookies that are going forward into the draft, which is on the 27th to the 29th of April. So we've got a good 8 weeks before the draft. Is that right? Is that my maths correct? Yep.
Pretty close to, about
pretty close to 8 weeks. So we will definitely do, in the plans of, depending on when it falls, possibly a live draft episode where we're live on YouTube. But we'll definitely have a draft day or a draft bonanza like we did before the Super Bowl. If you boys, you'll be back, Danny, won't you, from your South Korean holiday?
Yeah, you only gave me 2 weeks. What did you call it? Daniel leave? You only applied last night. How can I? You have so much in the budget. It's actually none. But so there is some news that we are going to talk about just quickly, and some questions without notice for you boys, as I always enjoy. Actually, I can do the media. I forgot the media button for you boys. But to start off with, just some more coaching hires or DC hires to be more precise. Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs. So I want your opinion on these boys, obviously. Bieniemy has gone from the Chiefs as a DC to the Washington Commanders as a DC. Didn't go for the head coach role. He's gone to DC to DC. What are your thoughts?
Staying in his lane. He knows where it's at. I saw a tweet from Mahomes saying about, is it Bieniemy or Bieniemy?
B.
Yeah. That, he regards him as one of the best, defensive coordinators going around. I think he might have said of all time, if not. So big raps from Mahomes. Huge hire for the Commanders. They're obviously trying to get a little bit of a rebuild going on. What are you laughing at?
Sorry, I just noticed with my music. Did I played the intro, but it obviously didn't work because I don't have it set on live. So I would have been sitting here for a while just waiting for the intro. Was in my ears, but not in yours, obviously.
Yeah, we were waiting.
I just looked down. I'm like, it says preview. Oh, no. I apologise.
That's why Cats and I would just awkwardly sit there drinking.
Oh, that's I thought you were just listening to the music, but obviously you weren't. Oh,
waiting for you.
I was too worried about other things. Sorry, boys, that was terrible.
Anyway, good hire.
Danny, what do you reckon? Good or bad?
Well, it's interesting, like, to leave the Chiefs after get the Super Bowl. You think maybe you'd try and stay and run it back personally, unless he's seeing this as a stepping stone to potentially get to a head coaching role over there. So I find it interesting. I would never leave a winning side.
What is going? Someone's calling me. I didn't put this has been grouse. Anyway, I'll keep talking while I'm down. I'll be back in a second. Oh no, this is so good.
I think that's a good take, Danny. Why? What's his motivation for wanting to leave? Obviously, the number one organisation in the league at the moment. Is he hunting that head coach job in the future, or?
He's been put down as a head coach for the past couple of years.
Sorry,
he's been touted as a head coach for the past couple of years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe, this is just complete speculation. I've read absolutely nothing on this, but complete speculation.
No, these are all without notice.
There's he's probably just going to use this, my assumption anyway, as a stepping stone. So I don't know how long Washington's head coach has.
That's interesting as well, because there was obviously talk, obviously Coach Reid's hanging around at Kansas City, but there was talk of him leaving, so that kind of leaves the door open for a hire from within for Bieniemy to take the head coach role at the Chiefs if Andy Reid possibly leaves next year. So interesting that he's gone across as a DC if that's his plan. So I don't know. Interesting.
Maybe finances were involved.
Yeah,
financial incentive.
That's always a bit of an incentive.
You definitely can command more. Sorry for the pun. When you win the Super Bowl, though.
You reckon that one was better than Daniel Lee?
Yeah.
Daniel Lee's here.
That wasn't a pun. That was serious. You can ask for more money. Anyway, former Denver head coach Vance Joseph, this is the other hire, has returned to Denver as the DC.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know where he was before, but he's returned.
Was he in the league or was he out of the league? Because if he was out of the league, then coming back as a DC makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I honestly don't know. All I saw is he's returned.
They've replaced the defensive coordinator from last year.
Yeah, he went.
Sorry?
He went to, was it Carolina, I think?
Yeah, not sure where. I can't remember where, but obviously, we talked about it already, but the defense wasn't really the issue in Denver. So
yeah, he's walking into an absolute gold mine, isn't he?
Well, yeah, perhaps with him leaving and maybe having been so last year's defensive coordinator leaving, they're bringing in Joseph, someone that's been in the building before, to bring a little bit of familiarity, try and keep some sort of continuity from last year to keep the defense strong. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't hate it. Good for Peyton. Like you said, maybe a bit of continuity with people that are already in the building and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
Good on him. It'd be nice for him to be able to rely on a DC that you can trust and that's had plenty of experience. If you've been a head coach, you should be a phenomenal DC.
Yeah, 100%. You know what Peyton's going through because I've been in that seat before.
Exactly.
2 days ago, what are we at? Friday? So Wednesday, a very exciting day was Wednesday. It was the day that you could begin, or teams can begin to franchise tag players. So none have happened yet that I know of, but soon things should start to happen. And the number one we're obviously looking at is the Baltimore Ravens.
On that, apparently...
Oh, bang, it's got something. How good's it?
Yeah. I was reading this morning. Apparently there's a $100 million discrepancy in what Lamar wants and what the Ravens want.
I heard he wants fully guaranteed, is what I heard. So he wants the same as Deshaun.
Yeah.
I reckon the amount of the contract would be, pretty good, pretty right, because that's relatively set.
Yeah.
But how much guaranteed is the problem?
Yeah, and that's where that $100 million comes into it.
Mm. And it's funny how just as soon as someone gets it, that just resets the market, and everyone's like, "I want that now."
Yeah,
that's
why there was a lot of hate towards the Cleveland owners because they're like, from the other owners, like, "What are you doing? You're stuffing us up." Because in their division, so Cincinnati, Baltimore, we've said this before. They're all loaded. They've all got billions of dollars. But I think Cleveland's owner is just that next level. So he can put the money into escrow and it's all right. Where
Yeah, you've got to put up the guarantee.
the other guys are not quite in that tax bracket, so they're like, oh, you're really playing a different game to be getting at us. But I guess that is the business, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. How long is this window to franchise tag open for? It's obviously capped?
It'll be pretty close to the season, I reckon. Because I remember
They've got that whole time.
not the entire season, but I reckon it'll be pretty close to either the start of the season or in that window there. So you got a fair while.
Oh, so it's open for ages.
Yeah, but it started. That's the big thing.
Yeah,
It started. The other news that definitely affects me is our man Aaron Rodgers is out of the dark. Have you seen any photos of what he was actually in? They put some photos out. The owner put some photos out of what it looked like.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, definitely do yourself a favour.
He said depending on how it goes, he might potentially also release some video of what he was doing in that.
I've been looking forward to that.
Is that just like him talking in the dark? Like you won't be able to see anything.
He was joking. He's like, some. What did he say? Some dancing, a bit of singing, and
Throwing a ball against the wall.
Yeah, and just.
yeah, one throw, bang.
So the photos that I saw, it looks like it was a very basic kind of setup. It was like a cave, like in the woods. It was just a door that went down. It was snowing over the top of it, which was cool. But inside, it was just a bed. It had like a yoga type mat, like to meditate on, and then just a pretty basic shower and toilet setup. So it wasn't, definitely wasn't the Hilton or anything like that he was living in.
You don't need luxury. You can't see it. As long as
I can still feel pretty luxurious.
As long as the bed's soft, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, silk sheets, you reckon?
So he hasn't released a statement or anything yet. He hasn't enlightened.
This was from the owner
of
the
escape
or whatever it is.
retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did. I saw a couple of tweets saying that he was out, but I haven't seen anything else yet.
Yeah. But it's exciting for me.
Good on him for lasting the whole 4 days.
Yeah, as far as we know.
He was always going to.
Yeah.
I've heard that people do it upwards of 30 days.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Baffling.
Could not.
Honestly, baffling.
I wake up in the morning and need to turn a light on. Like it's not scared of the dark, though.
You heard it here first.
Scared of the monsters you can't see in the dark.
Exactly. Yeah. I never have my foot over the edge of the bed because that's shit. I don't want to know what's down there.
They're going to grab first.
And the last little bit of news that I had, just to get an idea of, this seems to be the popular thing at the moment. Netflix is putting out a series that has followed, they did it well. Last year, they followed Kirk Cousins and Patrick Mahomes. So there'll be a series coming out. It says summer for them, obviously, so it'll be in our winter, I imagine. Following Mahomes and Cousins for the season, which I think that could be quite good viewing.
That'll be must-watch viewing, obviously, with Mahomes. But even just the season that the Vikings had, as much as you hate to admit it, they had a good year.
Yep, I know.
That'd be.
Was it Kirko Chains on the?
Is that as much as an admission we're going to get?
They beat us. They beat us.
YouTube.
100%, that's for sure.
I want to see the extended footage of Kurt Cochains on the plane.
On the planes. I wonder if that'll be in it. That'll be awesome. We all know, Justin Jefferson obviously had an incredible season, so I have to admit that they did play well, but they were jokers and they got found out. So that's all it is.
Netflix is really hitting the nail on the head with these sport docos where they're following around either players or teams or
getting the timing
or establishments. Yeah,
because
the golf one's going to be. I've watched one episode and I loved it already. So
so they're absolutely hitting the nail on the head. So for it to be football based is great for us and the fan.
Yeah. So one other thing that we are thinking, we didn't talk about this in the pre-game, was whether we go back and review old games and come back and talk about old games. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Well.
Oh, yeah. You go, Carts. No,
because I was going to say we had floated the idea of
movie reviews.
What did we say? Some movie reviews. There's some NFL themed movies. So we could do that. We could do old games. Yeah.
If we hit back some old classic Super Bowl games, like
just little short episodes.
Yeah.
Just something for everyone, all the fans to go out and watch. We'll watch it at the same time, then we'll come back and we'll review it, and you can listen to our review and message us about it as well. Like comment.
Yeah. That'll be a live one for sure.
Yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. That is all I've got. Is there anything you boys need to bring up before our Daniel leave starts? Not all of it. Actually, some of us are coming off Daniel leave.
Yeah. No, I think we ticked all the boxes there.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an exciting off season. I know it didn't sound grouse, but we do have a lot of, and we've got a lot in the pipeline.
Yeah, we're planning on trying to keep it exciting and interesting for you, and we're going to try and keep those interviews coming. We do have quite a few in the pipeline. So
yeah, and having a Super Bowl champion, like, do you think that's the height? Hopefully we can even push that even further.
Get around us.
Yeah, absolutely. But we are now shipping over to Makana Garrigan, the Division 1 coach. He's a grouse interview, so really enjoy this one. Enjoy your leave, Daniel. And Timothy, I will see you probably 6 or 7 times next week, to be honest. All right, boys.
See you, fam.
Bye.
Alrighty, joining me now is a coach that has been involved at the highest levels of college football in both a playing and a coaching role for well over a decade now. Makana Garrigan, how are you, Coach?
I'm doing well, Tom, man. Pleasure to be on here. Thank you.
Nah, it is absolutely our pleasure to have you. I was just talking to you offline, and it's really good to get an idea of the other side of football. We've spoken to a few of the boys about the on-field, but I really want to get into the other side of football with you today.
Absolutely, man. Excited to help.
But before we get to that, I do want to go. We like to start with, getting to know you as a person and where you got to where you are today. So I know you've been through a lot of places, which we're going to go through, but had you been down under before you come down here with the role you were in?
Yeah, actually, I came out with the University of Hawaii staff in 2016. We did a satellite camp. We did multiple. So we did one in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and then we actually did one in NZ as well before heading back to Hawaii. So that was, I think I was 22 at the time, a graduate assistant over at Hawaii. So pretty cool experience, yeah.
Was that did you play a game?
So that was that same, yeah. So we came out in, I believe it was the spring, and then we came out for the season. Actually played, we were talking about Cal Berkeley before this, but yeah, we played Cal in Sydney. Yeah.
Yeah, Jared Goff was.
I believe Goff may have been the quarterback. I actually can't remember. Wow. Yeah.
I was meant to. I remember I had tickets to that game. I was going, but I started my new job, so I had to pull the pin, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But that's cool to know.
Yeah.
So you had a favourite part of Australia? Like, you've seen obviously all the East Coast. Have you got around? Have you seen Australia?
I've seen a bit of Australia. I was able to go on holiday after the season with the Rhinos. When I first got here, I was fortunate to have a car, so I drove up to Sunny Coast. Went down to Gold Coast for a bit, and then over the holiday for Christmas, I went down to Melbourne. But I was also able to sneak in a flight up to Airlie.
Ooh. Yeah, lovely. So is it have you had a warm Christmas besides the one that you've had this year? This would be the warmest Christmas, surely.
Warmest one for sure, but second, like, runner-up would be Hawaii. Like, in Hawaii, like, no, obviously no snow and all that stuff. So pretty, that was interesting as well. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you didn't, where did you grow up? What was life like growing up? And you weren't born in Hawaii, were you? I think you just said you're an East Coast or West Coast man.
Yeah. My family, so my dad's from Hawaii. I grew up in California. So I grew up about 40 minutes north of San Francisco, about 30, 40 minutes from the coast. Yeah.
So football would have been a big part of growing up?
Absolutely. Sports just in general. Played football, baseball, basketball, pretty much like the American, it's like the trifecta. Yeah. And baseball actually being my first love, the second being basketball, and then I really fell in love with football about grade 9, 10 of high school, and then I really just put all my chips in at that point and realized this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah. So growing up, San Fran team, 49ers?
San Fran, Niners. I was big players. I was like, okay, which players do I like right now? Growing up, the early 2000s, mid 2000s, I liked, it was like the hard hitting time. So it was like, guys like Ray Lewis, and Urlacher, because I liked playing defense, and then I played quarterback. So I was like, oh, Mike Vick, man, just like the most dynamic, quarterback at that time. So guys like that, I really enjoyed watching players and studying their game as I grew up, and playing multiple positions. I got to, learn, that way as well. Yeah.
Well, you would have, I'm presuming you would have grown up with Steve Young then, yeah?
Oh yeah, Steve Young was here. Yep.
So he was Mike Vick before Mike Vick was around, really.
Yeah, I'd say so. The lefty, for sure.
Yeah. That's two pretty decent quarterbacks to grow up and idolize, I reckon.
I agree. And I wore number 7 for a reason. So,
yes, making sense. So growing up, 2011, you recruited to Nevada, University of Nevada?
Yeah, so coming out of high school, I was fortunate to get some people taking a look at me, and just so happened, Nevada was one that was on me from about sophomore, junior year, about in between. And I had, talked to some other schools. Ended up having a shoulder injury in high school. Didn't know how bad it was. Some of the schools, obviously, it's an investment for colleges as they're recruiting and they're picking up players.
Yeah.
Not knowing that at the time, I'm like, oh, how come all these schools are falling off? But Nevada ended up, continuing to stick with me through the recruiting process, and ended up there after high school. So ended up there.
So did you go there as a QB or what did you go as?
So I was interested in that. I was recruited in high school. I ended up playing quarterback in grade 9. And then 10, 11, 12, I bounced around from outside linebacker, safety. I played receiver. I was like the kick returner, punt returner, punter. So I pretty much was all over the field. When it came to college, I was recruited as a safety and a slot receiver. So when I went to the University of Nevada, I ended up as a safety. Yeah.
Do you think, just probably jumping forward a little bit now that you are in the coaching roles, has the fact that you've played, 3, 4, 5 positions helped you, getting around all the different, like obviously players and positions that they're playing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like growing up, like I said, I was even in high school, played multiple, like growing up as a kid I started playing football at 6 years old. And I was really fortunate to have good coaches, you know what I mean? And not just like football, but these were just like dads that really loved the game. And some of them had played college football, and were helping out. So again, it was really the community of parents, that were giving back and that were able to coach at a young age. So we were fortunate. But it just made a huge difference, right? For sure. And then playing the multiple positions, obviously you begin to understand the game from multiple perspectives, right? Yeah,
for sure, absolutely. So I couldn't actually find out what it was, but you had a career-ending injury. What happened? What have you done?
Yeah, correct. So that was what I was kind of getting into. Was my senior year. I had this injury, and then ended up, continuing with the recruiting process. Some schools fell off, and Nevada stayed, and so I ended up going to Nevada. Once I got there, I was able to, sit down with their sports medicine team, and they sent me to a neurologist back in back in the Bay Area in San Francisco during the holiday, and it just happens that I tore my one of the nerves that ran down my neck, and kind of a freak accident. Injuries happen with football and all contact sports. And it just happened. It was like, oh man, that's a bummer. And they basically were like, yeah, you can't play anymore.
Yeah, right.
So
Well, is it? Yeah, okay. Shit. That's you don't hear that like tearing a nerve though too often.
yeah, no, it was like I said, I played the game pretty reckless.
Yeah.
You know, I would definitely looking back at it, I would have done some things a little bit differently, and that's how I coach my guys up, you know what I mean, to be able to put themselves in safer positions and whatnot, and just learning from those experiences.
So you were lucky enough from that to join the coaching staff as a student assistant. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. So I ended up going back to Nevada. You know, thanks for my parents were like, hey, you know, you have an opportunity to continue to pursue your education, to pursue your degree. So I ended up going. I ended up taking a semester off completely of football, just because I had to separate myself in a sense. Like it was a lot for an 18-year-old kid to have that. You know, my dreams. 18-year-old like, hey, let's go play the NFL. You got to shoot for the top, and to have that just taken away and you know in a moment's time was pretty difficult to handle. So the best thing for me was to step away from football for a bit. After a semester, ended up over our summer break going home and coaching my high school team. So my head high school coach was like, hey, we'd love for you to help out. Ended up doing that and then fell in love right there. Since I was already going back to school. At Nevada, I said, hey, I hit up the coach who recruited me, who was also my position coach. He was a safeties coach. We had built that relationship. I said, hey man, is there anything I can do to help? And I started off doing, you know, like grabbing I was a coffee guy, right? I was a coffee guy. I was doing
start at the bottom. Start at the bottom.
Got to start somewhere, man. And I was doing laminating sheets of paper and you know, doing all that stuff and slowly making my way up. After that, but yeah, I was able to get an opportunity as a student assistant, and I believe it was season of 2012. Yeah.
So you spent what 3 or 4 years as the student assistant, or did you move up roles?
Yeah, so I spent three years as a student assistant, and just slowly as I was doing that, I was given more responsibility. Whether it was behind in the office responsibility or game day responsibility, doing signals or charting during games. I was actually given the opportunities to run some meetings as a student assistant, like coaching guys my age and a little bit younger at that point, but just slowly gaining responsibility as a student assistant. Ended up graduating within 4 years. After I graduated, then I was offered the job as a graduate assistant. So only difference between that is obviously grad school. And then it's also a paid position as well. So just that was kind of my goal at the time was, hey, I'm a student assistant. I get an opportunity to be a grad assistant. At that point, my goals became, okay, I can't play in the NFL. That's out of the question. All right, I want to coach in the NFL. And that became my goal and my vision from then on. Yeah.
So back to what you were saying just then, how did guys that you like teaching your own age, like or trying to coach your own age, how was that like? I imagine that some people, to be an elite sportsman, I think you need a little bit of an ego. So when you've got someone who's, 4 or 5 weeks ago or 4 or 5 months ago, you were playing next to me, and now you're trying to teach me. How did you go, and how did the kids go, or the other teammates go with that?
It was interesting, definitely. The other thing being like my roommate and one of my best friends in college was the starting middle linebacker, and he was the captain of the 2 or 3 year captain of the team.
Yeah.
I think what it came down to was just building that relationship. They understood my situation, and there was that mutual respect. And they knew how much I spent time in the office when I wasn't in class. I was in the offices, I was doing my homework. I was making sure I was, coaching up the right things. But yeah, it can be difficult. I think the hardest part for me wasn't necessarily the whole bouncing of egos. It was more of, I, at that time as a 19, 20, 21-year-old, felt like I could do a better job, right? And it was almost my own ego that was getting in the way of me becoming a coach, the best coach I could be. because I was so concerned that, I could be doing a better job than the guy that was on the field,
Yeah.
I think that was the hardest part. It wasn't so much me getting the attention of the players or, them respecting me. It was more of, me getting over that fact that I was no longer playing and that I was taking the role of the coach. And that took a few years to get used to.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, being an 18-year-old and shooting for the stars to be taken away, I can imagine it'd be quite a big hit, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you mentioned your studies. What did you study?
I studied, so it was community health sciences with an emphasis in kinesiology or sports medicine, which would basically be physio.
Yeah.
So I did that as my undergrad, and then I started my master's at the University of Nevada in educational leadership. And then I did 2 semesters. I did a summer semester, and then I coached through the fall, did a semester before actually going to the University of Hawaii in that same role. So as a graduate assistant there, that's where I finished my master's in educational foundations.
Leading straight into my next question, you accepted a role at Hawaii.
Yeah.
So that was just to continue your study, was it? Why did we pick Hawaii?
So it was, we could say continue study or to continue to pursue that football coach's dream, right? So
yeah.
So actually, it was the offensive coordinator at the University of Nevada at the time was Nick Rolovich. He had been there for 2 seasons. I had known Nick Rolovich since I was in high school. We actually grew up 15 minutes from each other. Our hometowns are 15 minutes. He's a bit older, but he was offered the job at the University of Hawaii. And so I stepped in his office once I fit and I said, hey, I would love the opportunity. And then, he's like, hey, let me get over there. Let me get it situated, figured out. And then, a couple weeks to a month later, I got a call. Hey, we got a spot for you. So I packed up my stuff and then I headed out to Oahu. Yeah.
So you mentioned that your old man was born in Hawaii, is that right?
Yeah, my dad was born in Oahu. Yeah.
So did you still have family over there as well?
Correct. Yeah. So my aunt was living there. My dad's sister was living there at the time. And then we have a pretty extended family, especially on my grandma's side. She has a few brothers and sisters. And then as well as my grandfather's side. So I was, it was awesome. It was a great experience being, of Hawaiian descent. Having been over there, having visited family, but not actually living or experiencing living over there for long term. So being able to live there for a few years and connect with family and spend a significant amount of time, around family, and then just in general, just the culture alone, was something that I always wanted to do growing up, and to have that opportunity and to actually do it was pretty awesome.
Great.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then you had one more final move, which was all the way to I believe, if my maps are correct, all the way to the other side of the states, over to Maine. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So, I did the graduate assistant thing for 2 years. We had some coaching changes, and then I ended up staying on for 1 more year, is what we call quality control, or some say like intern. It's different roles, but allowed me to stay on the staff. And help out the new defensive staff that came in. I was kind of help out with the buffer. And then, it was time to, now it's like, let's become a position coach. So I was fortunate enough to have a connection over at the University of Maine, a guy who that I coached with at the University of Nevada. When I was a student assistant, he was the graduate assistant type situation. And he was coaching the O-line. He hits me up. He said, hey, man, we got a running backs job open. Would you like to interview for it? And I said, man, it'll give me a D1 position role. I said, let's do it. Not having, played, ever been on the offensive side of the ball since high school. Bit of a challenge, but, took the interview and, was offered the job and made the move in after the 2018 season. So
how do you overcome that kind of challenge? Is that just a lot of tape, or just studying that role down to a T?
A little bit of both, and then I think the last thing would be like using my resources. Having been around some really good coaches, I'm like, all right, which are the best 3 running back coaches that I've been around? One of them being on staff with Brian Smith, who's now at Ohio. So I sat down and said, hey, man, can we have a conversation? I want to know everything to know about running backs. I called, guy Robbie Rouse, who was a friend of a friend, but just he's a year older than me, played at Fresno, was recently at Cal Poly, now he's at South Dakota. And I called him and I said, hey, man, what do I need to know about running backs? And so I just took in everything from a couple hour meetings with them. And I was like, hey, this makes sense, to me as a coach. And like, this is what I feel comfortable coaching. And so I just pieced it all together and was like, all right, this is how I want to present it. This is how I would coach the position. And that's how I went into the interview.
Beautiful. So we all know, and like I said, speaking to a lot of the boys, we all know what kind of, preparation and watching tape all the players are doing, but someone's got to, prepare that. How much tape and how much prep is a coach going through, week by week?
It's incredible. It is pretty much, it consumes definitely over half of the time. Whether, at certain programs, you'll have people that are able, like the student assistants or the graduate assistants, a lot of their job is data entry. We are constantly implementing or inputting data into these softwares and these film softwares in order to organize our film, right? Whether it's, situations like just like the down and distance, the field position, and then it goes into like, okay, the deep, like what's the offensive play here? What's the defensive play, right? What's the situation in general? And so it's constantly putting in that just so we can make cut-ups of those specific situations and then evaluate the film from there. So, I'd say more than half the job is really evaluating film, whether you're self-scouting yourself, whether you're watching opponents, upcoming opponents. It's a lot of time.
So how do you go? Are you given allowances for when you are studying? Like, because I imagine that, like you said, half the time you're doing that, you'll be at the facility with the boys. Like, are you given allowances to, like the players are, this is the time that you can go study and all those kind of things?
I mean, as a coach, it's almost just like, it's just assumed, right? So there is no like, hey, you get a contract, this is how much, and then it's really up to the head coach, it's up to the coordinators, to facilitate the position coaches of how much time that you actually spend in the office. So it's not really like a 9-to-5 job where it's like, hey, I worked some overtime, you know what I mean? It's just like, hey man, like it's like either you're in this late or some coaches are like, hey, you get your work done and get out of here type thing. It all depends on the situation, depends on the coaches, the program, on how much time you spend. Some guys I've seen are very efficient with their time, and I've seen guys that aren't very efficient, and they're like, man, I'm in the office till 11 o'clock at night. It's like, you can get that done in a short amount of time.
You. That's on you.
Like just depends.
Is it you hear the stories of like coaches, especially when you get into the head coaches and stuff like sleeping at the office and are these things that actually really happen?
Yeah, you want to hear a story?
Well, mate, go ahead.
So when I moved to Hawaii, I slept in my office for a year and a half. Expenses were up there, the school's in the city. The cost of living, and one of my best friends and I, now because of this profession, we were student assistants with each other in Nevada. We were graduate assistants with each other at Hawaii, and then we even worked with each other at the University of Maine type thing. So out of my 10 years, we worked with each other 8 years. Anyway, we're at the University of Hawaii. We're like, man, we ain't got any money. We can't afford, like, we're like, dude, let's just stay in the office. A couple of the coaches had, when they were transitioning, they would spend like a week or two in the office or so before they get situated with their house. And we were like, man, I got a gym here. I got the lock. I got my shower. I got a sofa to sleep on. So I just had some sheets and a blanket and a pillow. And yeah, man, ended up sleeping in the office for about a year and a half, saved up, was able to get an apartment. And
Did it feel weird when you had the apartment?
Man, it was so nice. It was really made me appreciate it and having that quote unquote luxury, I guess.
So I hope we'll move well forward. I hope now that you've come to Australia, you're living in a house or apartment, not living at the facilities, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, that won't be happening again, man. You could do that stuff at like 20, 22 years old. It's all right. It's acceptable. So
Yeah. So you decided after a couple of years at Maine, was it? Because you changed from running back coach to, was it its corners coach?
Yeah, so I coached running backs for 2.5 years, and then we had our corners coach job open up. And so I expressed my interest to the head coach, and he was like, "Yeah, I figured you would want it." So I interviewed for it. Next day, he called me in his office and he said, "You got the corners job," which was a nice relief. Not a relief, but it was nice to go back to the defensive side of the ball. I do enjoy coaching defense a little bit more than offense.
Yeah, definitely. But after that, you decided to step away from the college life, really.
Yeah.
And you got involved. Is it the National Academy of Athletics? I don't actually know what that is. So can you go into that and what your role is there?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I stepped out of college, ended up, speaking with some coaches out here. Opportunity. The reason for getting out of college was like just the time commitment, and not sure if that's what I wanted to do long term. Right. We talked about the hours and all that stuff. Was lucky to get an opportunity with the Rhinos. They invited me out, took care of me, and then that's where I met Sam Arnold with End Zone Academy. End Zone Academy is something really special. It's something unlike. Again, I've been here since June, but having shaken a good amount of hands and getting to know what the sport is over here and understand that stuff. End Zone is unlike anything that this country has, especially at the moment. Sam has done a great job with developing players, right, and getting them opportunities to go play in college. That has been the number one thing, I think, since the beginning. So in the last 4 years, I mean, he's done an incredible job of getting 10 guys over to the States to play college football on scholarship. I mean, that's pretty much unheard of. And not just, getting guys over to play junior college, but getting guys into the NCAA system. When I met Sam, he's super intelligent, man, in terms of the physio and, the athletic, how the body moves, how to create explosive players. He's up there with some of the guys that, that I've met in the States. And just like understanding like his values and why he does it, I was like, all right, I could see myself working with this dude. So after that season, we were friends before we became quote unquote like business partners. Yeah. We were basically like, okay, how can we build this thing up? And with my experience of coaching in college and, being around some really good football coaches and having coached position groups, my knowledge of the game is in the States would be pretty average, to be honest. Like if we're saying it that way, but over here it's definitely it's valuable. So we were like, how do we collaborate together? How do we build something kind of like a full package, right? So again, Sam's always been involved with getting guys right in terms of their bodies. I was like, okay, let's teach these guys football, and let's do it from a classroom. Let's do it on the field. Let's teach them how to move like football players. And then the last thing was like, again, to be a college athlete or even to go over and play in Europe, you got to be a well-rounded individual. You have to have, you have to know how to live on your own. You have to know how to budget. You know, have to make problem solve, right? And those type of things like that people don't really talk about, and so that's where Sam and I really clicked as well. We were like, it's not just about the football. It's not just about, okay, how athletic can this guy be, right? If mentally, if they're not prepared, then they're not going to survive, right? So we're big on building character with our guys as well. Giving them the expectations and holding them to those expectations that it's going to be that that's going to be expected of them when they get those opportunities, right? So at the end of the day, like I said, man, we're just trying to build the most well-rounded program and opportunities for guys to move to college, whether it's the States or trying to develop professionally and go and play in Europe. Yeah,
I think you're underselling it a bit to have 10 plus guys that have gone over to the States and are playing D1 and having a coach. You're saying you just average over there, but over here, I can't imagine there's too many, if any, that would have a D1 coach, in their facility. So
yeah,
I think you're being a little bit modest with how good the setup is at Endzone, and
it's pretty good, man. Like it's like if I was telling Sam, man, I'm like, if you should have somebody just stop by and see what we're doing on a daily basis, in terms of our meetings and how we prepare and how these guys, their mentality in the weight room. We'll be starting field work here pretty soon, but it is very unique, and we're building something very special for sure.
So, well, let's talk about that then. What is a day-to-day or a week-to-week like compared to what it has been for yourself in the past?
It's a lot less.
Yeah, winner. Yeah.
Which is kind of what I was looking for. I mean, if we want to compare, the college, day to day was, I wake up let's say in season at the University of Maine, I'd wake up at, about 5, like 4:50, 5 a.m. I'm in the office by 5:30. We're in meetings at around 6:05 to start special teams, about 20 minute meeting. Then depending on, we may meet with the coordinators, so offensive, defensive coordinators, and then you break out into your position groups. And then from, again, like 6:05 meetings all the way, and then we're on the field at 8:15 for about an hour and a half, 2-hour practice. Once we're off the field, it's like grab some food real quick, and then, hey, let's watch the practice film. And again, everything at that level is filmed, whether it's your individual period, or your, the team periods or whatever it is, and we evaluate everything, So we sit down, we watch the film, and then, go grab lunch, and then we come back. It's like, all right, let's game plan. All right, so, what's on our agenda today? What situations are we watching? And then for about 3 hours, maybe plus, we're coming up with the game plan for, maybe it's Monday, so we're talking about first and second down, our base, what our base play is going to be this week. And then that afternoon, it's getting ready for sometimes rewatching the practice film to make sure you have your cut-ups and the plays that you want to teach the guys off of. And then next thing you know, that night you come back, you're probably doing a little bit more game planning. So we're out at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Yeah. Maybe sometimes later, depending on if it's a big week or not. So that's pretty much a standard day in terms of an in-season. Here, Sam and I think we take ourselves, obviously, we're taking this from a professional standpoint. That's a big part of it. It's like building the professionalism, and that's what we mean by being like bringing the well-rounded athlete. So Sam and I get in usually around like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Better than 6 a.m.
better than 6 a.m. Yeah. And knowing that our lift isn't till, 7 o'clock, right? Or our meetings aren't till 7 o'clock in the afternoon. So we spend a good amount of time, preparing for our lifts and making sure that we're touching everything that we need to with our players. So yeah, a lot better than 6 a.m. So we get in around 2 or 3 o'clock. We break down, okay, here's what we're going to talk about in the meetings today. This is where our time's allotted to. Maybe there's something that went on the day before that we need to discuss, some house cleaning stuff. Maybe there's a point that we want to get across in terms of, like how to be more mindfulness practice or something, you know what I mean? Or a situation that came up. Anyway, so our weekly schedule for right now is we'll have 2 meetings. So we'll go, like this week, we're going Monday, Thursday. We'll start off with an hour meeting, and then we lift after that. And those meetings again we start off with the fundamentals of football. Like we've been going for almost a month and a half, going on 2 months now. And we really break the game down. Like, what are the rules, right? What are the rules of the game? What's the history of the game? Like, a lot of these guys don't even know where the game comes from. You know what I mean? We'll talk about like the basic, like how many guys are on the field, right? And I'm talking very base level. And then to now, we're about a month and a half in to where we're actually getting into, okay, let's start talking about the fronts, right? How does the defensive line up? What's the strength of a formation? All this stuff. So then that way we can all speak the same language, because at one point we're just going to start rolling through, and these kids will be able to see everything, right? They'll see all the situations, they'll see formations, they'll see tendencies of teams, and they'll understand the answers, because football is very much like chess, right? Where are the key thing is like, where can I put my pieces? Where are the pieces going? And then once they realize the big picture, then it's going to be, okay, let's dial in. Let's focus on individually, right? Your position. Okay, now you know the big picture. This is your job. This is how it affects everybody else, because the game of football is very much unlike any other, to where you have a specific place that you need to be. And if one person messes up, it can either be a negative play on offense, or you could be giving up a big play on defense, right? So it's really the understanding of teaching it from a holistic, or like the big picture, and then really diving into, okay, let's talk about what your job is. Now let's get into techniques, and then, how you can play it your own way. Yep.
Beautiful. Shit. Just sitting back and listening, going, holy shit, where was this when I was 17, 18? I would have loved it.
Me too. Dude, me too. I know. I tell my guys, I'm like, man, I didn't have this stuff growing up. I was sitting there watching ESPN.
Yeah, trying to watch, Steve Young going, what's he doing here? Where's he going?
Exactly. I was watching Sean Taylor highlights, like trying to watch guys. Yeah, that was what I was doing.
Ray Lewis, just watching him absolutely annihilate people. So how many players or people do you have in the program?
So right now, in person, we started second week of January with our interviews. So we actually put our guys through an interview process to make sure we know their goals, what they want to do, what their hours are in terms of, what's their life look like at home. Because again, like Sam and I are big on, like, we got to get to know, we got to build a relationship with these guys. We got to know so we can coach them up the best way possible. Right now, we have, in our in-person, we have like 22 to 24 guys.
Wow. And
these guys are showing up. I mean, the dedication of this group of men is pretty awesome. At first we were like, we'll see. We expect like half of them to drop off and all stuff, but we're a month and a half, almost 2 months in, and it's going really strong, man. I'm really proud of the guys and what they've been doing in person. We're really excited after we've pretty much set the foundation for our in person. We thought, hey, there's a lot of opportunities for guys outside of Brisbane that may want to learn football, you know what I mean, or what are training programs like. So we've decided to do a remote training program. We have about 10 guys signed up. That starts today's Wednesday, starts today, right? So at 6 p.m. Brisbane time, we'll be hosting our first remote training sessions, which will be exciting to be able to offer the opportunity for guys outside of where we're at to learn the game. Yeah.
Is there any plans to, take it to, Sydney, Melbourne, things like
that? As of right now, like, our big thing is just making sure that we are doing the best we can with what we have here, right? We don't want to go too fast in terms of that sense. Because the big thing for us is like the quality of coaching that we do have right now is It's pretty good.
It's D1, you might say.
It's D1, you might say. Yeah. So the quality of coaching, and we don't want to lose that. We do want more people to get involved eventually down the line. Our goal is maybe not opening up like end zone right now in other places, but I think the first step before that would be doing camps. So doing end zone camps, whether it's in, far north Queensland or going down to Sydney or Melbourne or going out to Western Australia would be a great opportunity. The other thing is, hopefully, again, I don't know everything, you know what I mean? And but I think that I do have, some knowledge that coaches would like and would appreciate and could learn something from. As well as connections to people with other resources and, knowledge in areas of the game that I may not. So another big thing that we've been putting together in the works is our coaches circle or our coaches roundtable, right? Which we will be doing online to give people an opportunity to hop on for an hour, maybe hour plus a week, and talk football that way as well.
Yeah, beautiful. I like the idea of grow it from the top to help through the bottom, and it's if we can get camps and things like that happening, I can see end zone really exploding over the next 5-10 years.
Yeah. To be honest, just teaching the game and being able to show people little, and it's just like every time that we do a camp or anytime, even the stuff here, it's like just teaching one thing. Those guys, they really hold on to it and then they bring it back and then they can share it and they teach it to somebody else. Just being able to spread the game here is it's just a great opportunity itself. Yeah.
So have we gained you over here? Are you an Australian? You're going to hang around now, or what's the plans?
We'll see, man. We'll see if Australia wants to keep me. So the whole thing is with the visa situation and all that. So, we're working on that right now. We'll probably know in the next, I'll probably have an answer in the next month or so, if that'll be able to be a long-term thing, or not. But right now I'm really just focused on, hey, let's get this done. Let's build this up and let's do it the right way, right here, right now, and then just see what happens.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. I know you talk it down, but I know you're a busy man, so I do appreciate you coming on. I do have another couple of just small questions just to finish.
Keep it going, man. Keep it going.
But no, I really do appreciate giving me your time and just giving us a good insight on what it's like on the other side of the white line, I guess.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of talent through obviously your career, coaching career, also probably your playing career, especially in the college ranks. But as far as the Australian side of things, can you see us having an Aussie that's going to be leading, a QB at the highest level one day?
A QB, a quarterback?
Yeah.
So that's okay. Quarterback in the NFL. If I had to make,
could you see an Aussie being QB?
Because that would be tough, man. That would be tough. The reason being it would be tough is because it comes. I'm not saying it can't be done, right? But it comes with a lot of repetitions, right?
Yeah.
And it's not dictated off the quarterback himself, but it's also the play around him, right? So a lot of those quarterbacks in the NFL that you see, we all know they've been playing since they were kids. At some of the highest levels through the youth, right? And so some kid in Australia may have great, what we call arm talent. You could just see him throw a ball. You're like, wow, that's really pretty. You know what I mean? But it's not. Right. And so being able to make decisions, right, on the fly and how fast the game is, would be the most challenging thing for a quarterback to play at that level, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not impossible, but again, it's the same thing with any other position group that goes from Australia to the United States, right? That athlete he's being recruited to play in the United States because he's a very good athlete, right? It's usually because his dimensions, meaning his height, weight, right? Maybe his testing, like his speed when we run a 40-yard dash, or his lateral movement is elite, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of colleges are taking a chance on kids from places such as Australia because they're like, oh, he's not gonna know football at the game, or he's not gonna know the technique, but we can develop him, right?
Yeah.
A quarterback position, like you can develop guys quicker. If you think about it this way, you can develop guys quicker the closer they are to the football.
Yeah.
Less I would say outcomes to a play, right? It's very limited. The further you get away from the ball, or like more in the skill positions, it becomes much more technical.
Yeah.
And so and quarterback position probably being the most technical and not necessarily athletically, right? Some may disagree, but mentally.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the biggest thing. So I think we're a ways. I hope someone proves me wrong. You know what I mean? That's what I always tell guys, like, please prove me wrong. But I think that would be what it comes down to.
Hurdle.
Yeah, that'd be the biggest hurdle.
Yeah. If we got kids coming through the end zone and they've got a younger brother or something like that, that's listening, you just never know.
Hey, we're shooting for the stars regardless. Every single one of our guys, man, we're like, hey, give us your goals. And like, I don't want like, oh, I'm gonna be, best player in Gridiron Queensland. Like, no, I want to be the best player right up here. Right. Let's shoot.
Yeah.
Let's shoot for it. Yeah.
I like what you said before about how you have to build trust, because realistically, I'm presuming a lot of these kids are going, you know what, this is my dream and I'm putting it in your hands. Get me there, I guess.
Yeah.
So you really do need that kind of trust between coach and player.
Yeah. And it's really knowing that we're going to do everything in our power, right? It's knowing that, like, it's not always going to work out, right? We can always, anything we do, we can put everything into, right? But it doesn't mean it's going to pan out exactly. Most of the time it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. Things happen. But it's building that relationship and knowing, our players knowing that, hey, we are doing everything in our power to get you there. But again, it's not just on us. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing in your off time? What are you doing while you're sitting here? Where, what are your intentions, right, on a daily basis? And it's really just giving them the tools to implement those on themselves, because we don't make those decisions. I don't decide if he's going to go play in the United States. I don't decide what he eats. You know what I mean? All that stuff. But we can give him the advice and we can lead him in that direction to where he wants to go. All right.
Brilliant. I reckon I do have one more slight question, but as far as the coaching side of things, I reckon you've knocked it all on the head, which is awesome. But the one question I do have is regarding my team, Green Bay. What do we have to do to beat the 49ers in the NFC Championship?
Man.
Mate? We just can't seem to get over that hurdle.
Well, I think what you got to do is you got to ask Aaron Rodgers what he sees in that dark room. And then I think you'll get crazy.
I reckon he'd be out now, so I'd be really keen to see what
he might have the answers at that point. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
Mate, I am hoping so. I really do hope so.
That's a good question.
It just seems to be the struggle at the moment.
To be honest, I really don't follow the NFL too much. Like I said, it's more of I don't really follow the NFL too much. I'll watch a game here or there. I really enjoy, some of the like Kyle Shanahan at the 49ers, like his offense, like for me, like I'm like, wow, that's really good. That's just the easiest way to put it. In terms of like the play design and how he gets certain guys the football and setting up certain plays. man, like, yeah, I think he's going to be in the NFL and he's going to be a head coach for a long time, I think, and then like defensively, it's the same thing. It's like, man, some of these guys, like their scheme or, how they disguise certain things, or when they get into situational football, I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. But one thing to tell you is I keep hearing this. I keep hearing people say this, but it's like football. When you think of football, you think of like, okay, NFL is like the highest, like they do all the crazy stuff. But really, it's they have like the athletes, and they pretty much, the NFL plays it more safe than any other kind of level that there is, in a sense that in high school, right, you could do anything you want, because at that point, in terms of like trying new things schematically or whatever, new techniques, like doesn't really matter, right? So a lot of people say like, oh, high school is ahead of college, and college is actually a few years ahead of the NFL, right? Because that's at the bottom layers, or at the lower levels, are where people are trying the new things, right? They're getting creative, right? Because at the NFL, you try something crazy like Kansas City's, their little merry-go-round, right? And then it works one time, and then they do it in the Super Bowl, right? And then they're like, oh, it didn't work, like, you know what I mean? Like people will be like, oh, what an idiot, But if it works, then everyone's like, oh, wow, that's a genius, right?
What a genius!
Yeah,
he's an offensive genius.
Exactly. He's a mastermind, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's funny, man. Some of the most interesting and creative plays that I've seen are like sometimes when I was recruiting and watching high school film. And I was like, oh man, that was pretty neat. That was nifty. And then like college is the same thing. You're like, oh wow, that's pretty impressive. That's an interesting way to design a play. And then the NFL, it's actually the most like some of the most base football, right?
Yeah. I hear a lot that the NFL, like you said, 2 or 3 or 4 years behind college. But is that because, you've got those college kids coming through and they're becoming the stars, the Jeffersons and Jamar Chases and things like that. And that if they just tailor their offense to them, which they've gone through, college and high school football.
Yeah.
Is that why would you say they're a couple of years behind?
I don't know if this is going to answer the question. I would say that it's more of like in the NFL, you have a lot of those same guys, right? They're like the speed of the game's different. Like everyone's an elite athlete, as opposed to college where it's like you're going to get a lot more favorable matchups, right? So you can design things, but if you design it the same way in the NFL, they'd be like, oh, well, now it's just a player matchup. We'll just put this guy here, or whatever. Where it's a much more even matchup, right? Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, I get what you're saying there, where it's you are, if you're making it to the NFL, you're definitely the top echelon, aren't you?
Yeah. And then, but there's also guys that run, they're the same speed and all that stuff. Like in college is the variation between, skill sets or abilities.
Jamar Chase wasn't lining up on someone that can outrun him in college.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sauce Gardner.
Fair enough.
Sauce Gardner, who didn't allow, a single touchdown in his whole career at Cincinnati. Like that's pretty freaking impressive.
Yeah. And then he's carried it pretty much straight into the NFL. Him and Tariq Woolen, he's the same.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like in their rookie seasons, man. I'm like, let's go. That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you just watch the few games that you do watch a year?
Yeah.
You just watch the defensive side and just get so excited?
I mean, dude, I honestly I like a good game. Like I like a game where it's like, okay, good coaching. I like to see, time management, clock management, play calling, decision making. I like seeing, a defense, get scored on, and then the next series respond with like a takeaway or whatever. Really like the Super Bowl in terms of...
Yeah, I was going to say, so how did you find the Super Bowl? We found it as being a very defensive game that had 35 points scored in it. Like,
it was beautiful. It was very back and forth. Like it showed like both teams just were coached so well and just had this mindset of like they weren't going to lose. Like the way they whether they had a negative play, but they were both times, each team was just responding. And that's what you saw was just response after response. And to see Jalen Hurts, after Kansas City scores late in the fourth, and then Jalen Hurts goes, and then he just sees the missed coverage, the corner falls off, and he just takes a shot down the field and for a touchdown. I was like, let's go. You know what I mean? To see that, obviously the deciding factor, we always say football comes down to one or two plays. I don't necessarily agree with that, but if you want to say some of the big plays, was that punt return late in the game was just like, oh man, that kind of was a big play. And then obviously the holding call at the end was kind of the icing on the cake for Kansas City. But no, man, I just like good games, whether it's, it's coaching, it's playmaking, it's watching guys respond, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, man.
All right, mate. I reckon we've wasted enough of your time for the day.
No waste, man. It was a pleasure.
We will definitely. I feel like we've already started to get a little bit of, I don't know, a bond or something with the end zone. We've got a few more of the end zone boys coming on in the next few weeks.
Beautiful.
So that'll be exciting. Good to chat with. But we'll definitely keep on top of you guys and watch you guys progress.
Right on, man. Look forward to talking soon, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Tom.
Thanks, mate.
Appreciate it, man.
Get out of it.